Carrying this in my truck is entirely legal in the state of Texas. And if I were being chased by a wild boar, it might make sense. If you're thinking of moving to Texas, I'm going to give you a handful of tips to prepare you. And be sure to stick around to the end because I can guarantee there's at least one you haven't heard anywhere else. Like it says in my intro, I'm Ian of Austin, and I specialize in helping people move to Austin. However, when you're moving to Austin, you're also moving to Texas. And with that, inevitably comes some things, both good and bad. When you first embarked on your journey to start researching moving to Texas, you probably came across the no state income tax. And you were like, well, that's great. And housing's more affordable. So that's also great. But there are a lot of ways that the state offsets those costs. They still have to run the state and bring in money. One of them, I'm sure you've heard of, is property taxes. The thing about property taxes is they can vary widely from one neighborhood to the next, not just city to city. And if your realtor or your mortgage lender is not teaching you this, you might have some decisions to make. If you're looking into buying a home, seriously, it's a free service to you. It's not like we're in Canada where they have to pay the buyer's agents. So let's say you're looking to buy a house for $450,000, which is about $100,000 less than the median sales price is today. You could be paying either $15,000 in property taxes or $8,500 in property taxes. So you tell me in the comments which one you would rather pay. Remember, this is every year. So if you decide to take the blue pill, we're talking $1,250 a month on top of your mortgage. While we're on the topic of houses, let's talk about schools. I get constant calls like this. Ian of Austin? Yeah. I would like a 4-bed, 2-bath with good schools. What do you got? Well, because of fair housing laws, I can't actually tell you what a good school is. That's subjective. But what I can tell you is a large chunk of your property taxes goes towards the schools. So not only will you pay attention to that, but you'll also be researching on sites like greatschools.org, niche.com, and probably some of the Facebook groups and Nextdoor. If you haven't heard of Nextdoor, I'm going to put that in the description below along with all these others. What you want to do is you want to think about what's most important when your kids are in school or when they get to school. Because if you're buying a house now, but your kids are 3 years old, it's going to be a few years. There's some schools that get like a D on their diversity rating because it's all like grouped together. And then they get like an A because they build robots with a special education program. And the other thing, the school system has been completely out of whack over the last 2 years. A lot of those schools have been like half prepared with half hybrid classes and things like that due to the pandemic. And literally hundreds of thousands of people have been moving here. So what do you think that does to the schools? How many new schools have been created? And think about how much money has been deposited in the school system that has not yet been spent. And if your kids aren't going to be in school in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll probably move again before they are. And this is my last comment on schools. And I have people say, well, I don't have kids, so schools don't matter. Or I'm a veteran and taxes don't matter. But do you know what my response is? Well, sir or ma'am, will it matter to the people that are buying your house when you're selling it in a few years? Let's talk vehicles. Did you know that all wheeled vehicles will require an annual registration renewal? I'm talking cars, campers, motorcycles, boats. I don't know about boats. Maybe boat trailers? Some of the other states, they're every 2 or more years. They might be small, from $30 to $80, but this is every year for every vehicle. And you want to hear something ridiculous? I bought an electric vehicle, and they still require me, they being the state of Texas, still requires me to get an emissions test. I don't have emissions. That's why I bought it. I mean, it's the only reason I bought it, but come on, really? Texas roadways are fun. And if you are a timid driver or you're afraid of heights, both of those might be a problem. We have U-turns all over the place. And so if you come to a major intersection, a lot of times you'll be able to do a full U-turn without actually having to stop at the light. And then if you do make that U-turn, there's often a frontage road in front of businesses so that you can decide whether or not to get off or on to the highway. And also, I've mentioned this in a lot of my other videos, we have roads where the speed limit is 85. And it's funny because nobody goes 85. You know something I can't figure out why people can't figure out? Zipper merges. A lot of accidents could be avoided if you just learn how to merge together. You may be used to driving in LA, New York, Orlando, India. Now take all those people and move them here. Do you know how many accidents we have here? Speaking of crashes, if you move to Texas and you crash into somebody else, you don't call the cops. You get each other's info, you take pictures, you call your insurance, and then you go about your merry way. Unless someone's hurt or dead, then you call the police, or if your car is immobile. Another thing you'll discover when you're moving to Texas is that the bugs in Texas are legit, just like everybody says. We do have boar, we do have snakes, we do have scorpions. We saw this thing on our back patio last night. It was like a crab with wings. Still don't know what it is. I bet my dog Jarvis would eat it. He eats everything. Seriously, this guy. It's ridiculous what he puts in his mouth. It gets pretty hot, but there's 100 videos that talk about Texas weather, so we'll skip over that one. Ooh, so back to my intro. Guns and swords are free to carry around in Texas. You don't even need a license anymore. You're supposed to keep it in a holster, but I'm willing to bet a lot of people aren't reading that part of the law. And so the next time you go full I need to speak to a manager mode, while people are generally pretty nice, if they were to feel threatened, it might change the way that they respond.
This is all mouth. This is mouth.
Oh, so you want to take this outside? Because I think they can bring cameras outside.
You gotta realize there's so many different people moving here from different places and different walks of life that the rules of the road and the rules of the street might not be anything like what you were used to when you were growing up. So please, I implore you, be kind and be careful. Did you know that some neighborhoods are all electric? Yeah. Okay, I'd say it's about 50-50. Half of them have natural gas and then the other half are all electric. And a lot of it, from what I've seen, has been either the age or the location of the home, or is it in an HOA? Also, since I mentioned HOAs, we're about 50-50 on those as well. So if you think you're just gonna buy a shed and throw it in your backyard or on a piece of land, you might have another thing coming. I was actually talking to my friend Christina Smallhorn about that earlier today. She just released a video on that very thing. So if you're interested, go check that out. Also, if you're moving to Texas, you might be surprised to find out that you rarely get a fridge, washer, or dryer. You get the other things. You get an oven, you get a dishwasher, and if you're fancy, you get a bidet. And if it's a new construction home, you probably don't get blinds or gutters either. So be sure to budget for that. Okay, if you're still with me, this is what you've been holding out for. Remember how I said there's at least one thing that you've never heard before? This is probably it. You remember that time you had to get your Ducati towed because as beautiful a bike as it is, it costs more money for maintenance than it was to actually buy the thing? No? Was that just me? Well, on the back of all Texas driver's license, there's a phone number if you ever need to get a tow or roadside assistance, paid for by yours truly through our property taxes. So after I help you buy a house, if you end up stranded on the road and you're like, oh, I remember ianofAustin told me something about if I get stuck, you can text me. I'll come pick you up in my Texas-built Cybertruck, built like right down the road here. You can get some coffee, make sure you get taken care of. Or I'll reply and say, hey, here's the number. Don't forget it's on the back of your license. I hope this video was super helpful. I spent a lot of time putting it together for you. Thanks so much for subscribing. Have yourself a wonderful day. Hey, you see these clips that are at the end of my videos? All of these places are within about 45 minutes of Austin, Texas. See if you can name them all. I appreciate you and look forward to helping you buy or sell your next home.